Keep them hashtags, you know I see ya. Talk about you the best, people never heard of ya. It's all about the punchlines, you know they clever. Never.
What's up, Misfits? This is Long Island Josh here with This Guy Red, and tonight we're here to discuss tonight's episode of Monday Night Raw that came from Green Bay, Wisconsin.
Yes, it did, and I got one thing to say about the Green Bay crowd. They pretty much were dead, and they kind of sucked through the show.
They really were a dead crowd, which is surprising. I mean, I get that 3 hours can be long, but the show started on a pretty good part, and it ended on a pretty strong point too.
Yeah, but then once Goldberg's music hit, no one really popped. It's just like, even despite it being a 3 hour show, I can understand if a hot crowd was pretty gassed out probably halfway through it, but they weren't really they weren't really there throughout the whole show.
Well, watching it, I mean, it threw me off that it just went from the intro right into the Goldberg entrance. So, like, if I was there live, I guess it would catch me off a little bit because it seemed like the crowd didn't pop right away because it's just like, oh, boom, we're right into it.
Yeah, so let's get real fast right into it. We'll talk about the contract signing between Braun Strowman and Roman Reigns, but there's two parts I want to talk about right here real fast throughout this part right here. One, how do you feel about the whole Mick Foley GM, Stephanie McMahon talking down to him? She talked down to him last week, and then she talked down to him also tonight, and then you also have Braun Strowman come out and just rip into Mick Foley just as a GM, as a man, as a person, as whatever.
Yeah, like you said, they've kind of been, beating down Mick Foley verbally for the past few weeks, so I can understand his frustration in the main event. Just like to get away from storyline, isn't the rumor that like Foley has to get hip surgery, so he's probably leaving for a while, and they might replace him with Kurt Angle?
Something like that. I just know that he has a bad hip, so yeah, the dude's a daredevil in his own right.
He's paying the price for a very rough style.
Yeah, so I don't know. I think that could be the solution that they're gonna go with, him leaving. But still, storyline wise or whatever, do you think it's wise for them to just like rip into him?
It only makes sense to rip into him if you're gonna have it pay off, and you can't have it pay off in a match. So I don't know what the payoff here is to taking a living Hall of Famer and just bashing him for the past few weeks, and it's really been happening for months. If you pay attention, that they talk down to him. But at least tonight in the main event, he kind of pushed back, so he's not just gonna take it, which is at least nice.
Yeah, and it was good just because he's showing more resistance against Stephanie McMahon, but she still just rips into him of the person that he is, and it was good for him to stand up against Braun Strowman.
Well, yeah, and I guess we're just gonna go right into the main event. The main event of tonight's show, which I think probably was a good main event for the show, was the contract signing between Roman Reigns and Braun Strowman for this Sunday night's match between the two of them at Fastlane.
Yeah, and it turned into a traditional. It turned into a traditional contract signing, which always happens is between two guys. They don't really just stand in the ring and sign the contract. They have to kick each other's asses.
Yeah, these guys brawled outside the ring, and then they went outside into the crowd. And I mean, this got the crowd popping. I mean, we talked about earlier how these guys, Green Bay, Wisconsin seemed to just be a little dull, tired, but whatever it was, at least like when you go into the crowd fighting all over the place, you get the people, active, chanting, screaming.
Yeah, that's a good thing, but it's just the crowd. I think a lot of people were turned down. I mean, the show I would say was better than last week, but it's the crowd this week. The crowd just sucked, and I feel like there was parts in there. I mean, they did go into the crowd, and usually if it was like in like Los Angeles or Texas or somewhere, there'll be a big pop, but they were just pretty much just tame tonight.
No, you're right. There's something off about them all night, but that's unfortunate because the main event was pretty strong. These guys brawled all over the place. The big spot was Braun spearing Reigns through No, wait. No, who Reigns speared him?
Reigns speared him, but then it transitioned into the ring. There was that first spot that you're talking about where they speared him and also took down the security guy with them.
Yeah,
And
that's what I
then
was talking about. Because at first, like, just some random guy went down. I'm like, I guess that's a security dude. And it took like 2 minutes for one of the commentators to be like, "Oh, random security guy." Because like, okay, because I don't understand why that guy was also speared.
yeah, it was just out of nowhere. It's like, okay, well, just throw a random guy in there. And then also the second big spot was when Braun Strowman threw Roman Reigns into the turnbuckle, and the turnbuckle just basically just busted, and they both went down.
Yeah, it basically popped in his face, and they replayed it a few times. If you pay attention to the audience, people did not expect that to happen, and they have a genuine like, "Oh wow" reaction.
I thought it should have been a bigger reaction, but still, Green Bay crowd sucked. That's all I'm just gonna say about that one.
Okay, so come Sunday for Fastlane, are you looking forward to this match?
I'm looking forward to it, but in my all honesty, I really feel like that Braun Strowman should win between Roman Reigns and just keep the dominance going all the way until WrestleMania.
I prefer Roman Reigns to lose because I hate Roman Reigns. So I also hope Braun wins.
Yeah, so that was actually not that bad to close it out. And another good point tonight was kind of like the match main event between Cesaro and Samoa Joe, which I really enjoyed the match. I thought it was I was looking forward to it when they made the match earlier, but again, very good match. But
well, like you just mentioned, they made this match earlier in the show, and watching the show from beginning to end, when this was announced, I was like, oh wow, like I'm looking forward to this. This had me going to the end of the show where I was like, oh cool, I get to see Cesaro versus Samoa Joe. So I liked the match. I like just going into it, I was hyped. So I'm happy that this match happened.
yeah, I was very happy that happened when they did go with the match and everything, when they had the interests and everything when they started. Very good match throughout the whole thing. It was very physical. It was a technical wrestling match between the two, even though Joe was the bad guy, Cesaro's the good guy, and Joe was taking some cheap shots and going after his knee. I thought it was a really good match. They had some really good moves going on with each other. Cesaro still just continues to impress me with how he wrestles and just picking Joe up. I don't even think that Joe like gave some momentum with that suplex that Cesaro gave him. I think Cesaro just like picked him up with his own weight.
Are you talking about right in the beginning?
Yeah, and then
Cesaro's a monster beast. He can just deadlift guys like crazy.
Oh yeah, and then this very good match. I just think that the crowd just wasn't in there. There was here and there, but it should have. It's a good enough match that it should have had a better crowd.
It should have. Something was wrong with tonight's crowd. I totally agree with you on that one. The ending was Joe wins with a Uranagi. Like, so that's his finisher, I guess. He's not doing the muscle buster, is he?
No, I think that just because of what happened to Tyson Kidd, that whole thing, I think is one of those moves that they kind of transitioned out of the way. Kind of like how Seth Rollins was doing the head stomp, and they just kind of transitioned it, and they're just like, well, that never really happened. So I think they're doing the same thing with the muscle buster.
Well, I'm hoping that Joe brings that out maybe in like pay-per-view matches or big moments, but I guess the Uranagi as his primary finisher right now is totally fine.
Yeah, it works for him. So Joe is I would like to see Joe in bigger matches, and let's talk about when Sami Zayn came out as well.
So Joe starts cutting he gets interview as post-match as he goes up the ramp, and he basically puts a warning out to the whole WWE roster, letting them know that it doesn't matter who you are, what you've done, he's Samoa Joe and he's the destroyer. And as he's talking, Sami Zayn's music goes on, and like what I loved is that Joe got ready. He looked right at the Titantron waiting for Sami Zayn. He was ready to fight, but Zayn comes from the side, attacks him because that's how Joe fights too. So I guess it's fair to attack him the same style. And these guys also have a little crazy brawl on the outside of right by the Titantron.
Yeah, I mean it'll be a good match. Hopefully it'll be a good match, and I think the two are physical enough to go against each other. They've went against each other in NXT before, so I think they could put on a pretty good match.
Yeah, should be a very good match.
All right, so let's talk about the third point that we had is at the beginning of the show with Goldberg coming out right at the beginning, right after the whole welcome to Green Bay, Wisconsin, and his music hits. Again, Green Bay crowd sucks since the beginning.
Yeah, I don't know what it was. It definitely, like when we were watching it live, it definitely set a tone for the night. I was like, oh, these guys don't seem to be active because right from the get go, they're not being loud.
Yeah, and so Goldberg comes out. He cuts a promo. I think it's not a bad promo. He's just like, I'm here to kick ass and not here to take the Universal title from Kevin Owens. And all he did was come out here with a nice suit and talk, and that's not what I'm going to do. And I think he cut a pretty good promo for Goldberg's standards. And
oh, for sure.
Yeah, and Kevin Owens came out. And I think these two are just, I think in a way, if you've seen the recent tweets with each other.
Oh, they've had a nice little Twitter battle the past 2-3 days.
Oh yeah, and I think this is just both of them are getting under each other's skin. I think Kevin Owens was trying to do that with Goldberg. Goldberg was, I think, getting more under Kevin Owens' skin with just like, that's a nice little speech you have there, and giving him a clap and saying, give it up for Kevin Owens and his little speech that he has. I think Kevin Owens' plan kind of backfired, but kind of teased there for a minute that they were going to have a Green Bay street fight, but he's like, whoa, this is Green Bay. What am I talking about? And I'm glad that it kind of set the tone with Kevin Owens saying, this is Green Bay. Why would I want to do it in Green Bay? Yeah, why would you want to do it in Green Bay? Look how they pretty much just sucked.
In retrospect, that was an accurate insult to Green Bay because they were not active.
Oh, but, they weren't.
The whole point of this segment was to build to the big pay-per-view draw, and like later on they mentioned, if you subscribe as of Thursday, if you subscribe to W Network, you'll get Fastlane and you'll also get WrestleMania in that 30-day period. So since they're pushing for Fastlane, this is most likely going to be the main event. Who do you want to see win? Who do you think wins? Goldberg versus Kevin Owens.
I'm an old school guy. I've always talked about this ever since WCW, so I'm going for Goldberg.
I'm going for Kevin Owens. I'm like 99.999% sure Goldberg wins, and then WrestleMania is Goldberg versus Brock, and the title be on the line. But I like Kevin Owens, so I'm hoping, even though it's probably not going to happen.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not expecting the level of excitement as Goldberg versus Hollywood Hogan had back in '98 for the WCW title, but I'm thinking that I'm like I said, I'm a WCW guy since the beginning, and so I'm pulling for Goldberg to win this match. That's just the old school part of me.
All right, so something else that happened on Raw tonight, not necessarily about Fastlane, but more about WrestleMania, was that Seth Rollins was interviewed by Corey Graves, and basically he says that his tear in his ACL was worse than he originally thought. And the big question Corey Graves asked him was like, are you going to be there at Mania? And it seems like he's going to say he's not going to, and then Triple H comes out and Triple H basically tells Seth, don't go to Mania, don't make it. And what do you think's going to happen at Mania now?
Well, for one, I thought they were going to do a swerve type of thing where Seth Rollins is like, I tricked you. My leg's okay. And
that's what I thought too.
Yeah, and so I think maybe they'll keep that for WrestleMania. If not, they're gonna be, Seth Rollins will probably come out the Monday before WrestleMania and be like, I am healthy enough. I'm ready to do this. But yeah, I think but during that time, I think he'll be heel enough.
Yeah, I mean, I the way they did it, I mean, Seth is most likely probably going to be there at Mania. This is one of the feuds I'm not necessarily looking forward to, but they did make a big point on Raw, so I just want to make sure we touched on it before we head out.
Yeah, and then one more real quick point. I think they kind of set up Austin Aries return type thing, because before the second cruiserweight match, they did do a video package of Austin Aries when Austin Aries says, I have some breaking breaking news later on, and it was a video package of Austin Aries. So I'm thinking that this might be also a setup between Austin Aries probably trying to go for the Cruiserweight Championship.
Well, this Sunday it's going to be Neville defending his belt against Jack Gallagher. I assume Neville wins. So, do you also think that?
I think Neville wins, and I think this is the start of maybe Austin Aries' return against Neville. That's what I'm thinking.
Yeah, probably. That's probably the most likely thing.
Yeah, so let's do just a quick run through. We had the New Day come out, which they're the New Day. They try to be entertaining. They try to spoof of what happened at the Oscars last night with Warren Beatty and Faye Dunaway with the whole messing up the what was it, the movie of the year thing where they said the wrong thing,
Yeah,
or
they announced La La Land when it was actually was it Moonlight?
yeah, and so they tried to do the same thing with the Shining Stars coming out, and they're like, well, we're not, you guys aren't who we're supposed to go against. I'm sorry. And then they announced that it was Jinder Mahal and Rusev, which match was okay. It was just okay. That's all I had to say about that.
Yeah, it was a decent match. Nothing really special happened. I mean, Jinder Mahal, he looks jacked out of his mind.
So he looks like he's in good shape.
I wonder if he's passing physicals.
You know who's in better shape? Lana.
I was about to say Lana.
But it was an okay match. And then we also had Enzo Amore and Big Cass coming out. I think it was Big Cass who went against.
Yeah, it was Big Cass versus Luke Gallows. So this was a good Haas match. Two guys just hitting each other really hard.
Yeah, just one of those old school two big men just going at it. And
I mean, really, it's the winner didn't matter because it's building to tag match between the two teams.
Well, I'm glad that they didn't do another club versus club versus Roman Reigns thing, which I just thought it was dumb.
And last week was a mistake.
It was. And then we had Akira Tozawa versus Noam Dar. It was a pretty good match.
I like.
Yeah, it was a pretty good match.
I like the cruiserweights. It's kind of weird the way that they break it up into like 3 segments throughout the show, just because the live crowd has to see him put the ropes on 3 times. So that's just weird. But the match was good.
Yeah, it was pretty good. And then Tozawa gets the win and everything with the very impressive. Like I like how he does like a snap German suplex.
Yeah, it's kind of it's weird because WWE style hasn't really played to that type of style, so it seems more vicious because you don't see it that much.
Yeah, so it was a pretty good match. I'm impressed with Tozawa every week that I watch him, and Kendrick comes out again and does his own thing, gets the mic, crowd boos.
It's a long going feud.
Yeah, so we'll see what happens with that one, and then we also had the altercation between Charlotte Flair and Bayley and Sasha Banks and whatnot out there, which I didn't really pay attention this time all too much. I don't know why. I don't know.
I'm the same way.
Yeah.
Because a few weeks ago they're main eventing Raw, and now it just seems blah. Honestly, It seemed like piss break type of segment.
Yeah, and then it set up a match between Charlotte and Nia Jax versus Sasha Banks and Bayley, which Charlotte Flair and Nia Jax got the win with Nia Jax pinning Sasha Banks, where everybody was freaking out. They go, Nia Jax, just beat the champ or just pin the champion. It's like, okay, calm down. She's done that before. But we got that, and then what else do we have? We also had Titus O'Neil against Sheamus, which Sheamus got the win.
It's filler. It's the problem with the 3-hour Raw. It's too long.
Yeah. And then we had what?
No, go on.
No. We had the Shiny Stars going against the Big Show, as it was supposed to be a handicap match. And,
so rumor is that Big Show versus Shaq at WrestleMania is not happening.
Yeah, there's a rumor about that saying that Shaq was trying to get out of it, or just. I mean, the Big Show went on a big rant saying, "I don't come into your sport and disrespect you. If you're going to say that you're going to wrestle me in my own sport, at least be professional about it and come do it. no disrespect what I do, you know. And, you know, I understand that. It's very, very understandable on the Big Show's part.
I get it, but at the same point, when you're such high level athletes in entertainment, they should have had it in signed writing.
Yeah, so I
Because
don't
they
know.
last week, otherwise, if you knew this wasn't going to happen, you could have done at Mania Big Show versus Braun. And they wasted
Very good
it
match.
on
I
Raw.
thought still think that was one of the best matches that they had for the year 2017.
It's ridiculous. But can you imagine that type of match on Mania when no one really expected it? It would have been great.
Yeah, I think people are gonna be like, "Oh, this is just two big men. It's just gonna be slow and whatnot." But they put on a damn good match, and I really liked it. All right, so then lastly, we had Jack Gallagher and T.J. Perkins against Neville and Tony Nese, and basically Tony Nese was in the ring, and Neville was just all like, "Screw this! I'm just gonna jump off the apron and just I'm not taking this." Just leave Neeson there with Gallagher and Perkins, which you did.
Well, if the King of the Cruiserweights doesn't feel like battling, then I understand. So,
the King does what he wants.
exactly. So I don't know. It was a good match for how long it lasted. I like Jack Gallagher as a character. He's probably my favorite of the Cruiserweights right now. But I like the idea of Neville being a king. So I'm hoping that Neville retains his belt on Sunday, and then we think he'll probably go against Austin Aries.
That's what I'm thinking. And then lastly, to finish this whole review show off, they also put in the next inductee into the WWE Hall of Fame of 2017, which I'm okay with this one. Beth Phoenix,
Solid choice, Beth Phoenix. Definitely one of the better female wrestlers of her time when she was really kind of in that diva era. So, it's unfortunate that she couldn't be competing now, where you do have more traditional women's wrestlers right now than back when she was competing.
totally agree. I feel like that she came in at a time where it was just a bunch of tits and ass and pretty faces and blonde girls all over the TV, and she was the one that was like was a dominant wrestler, and she was dominant during that time. I mean, against all those, like how I said, pretty little girls that they just were trying to throw on TV. And I think she would have done good in this time of age of a lot more better women's wrestling.
For sure. This year's Hall of Fame, not looking that bad, honestly, compared to other years.
Yeah, it's got a pretty good class. I'm pretty good. Like I'm pretty happy about how this class is coming out too. We got Angle, you got Long, you got Dallas Page, you got Beth Phoenix, and I'm thinking I might be missing one maybe. But yeah, so that was basically the show. How would you rate the show?
Not as good as a few weeks ago when they were coming out of the pay-per-view. I feel like the past few weeks has gone down a bit. The beginning of the show, beginning half, it really felt like a bad Raw, like it was a waste of time. But by the end of the show, I felt that it was justifiably 3 hours of my life that was all right. But, overall, okay Raw, and I'm more looking forward to SmackDown tomorrow.
Yes, I agree. The way I rate the matches, it was better than last week's Raw. It was not as good as coming off the what SmackDown did with Elimination Chamber. And I'm just gonna point that out because they did really well on that show the night after Elimination Chamber, and I was expecting a little bit better show before Fastlane because it's their pay-per-view. Maybe next week it'll be better, but it was better than last week's. The only downside that I had about tonight, the real big downside, was the crowd. Like I said, Green Bay sucked.
Yeah, they definitely let the WWE Universe down tonight. But if you guys like what you heard, please hit that like button, press subscribe, and definitely leave a comment.
Yep. See you guys later.